The Light Brown Kennel Box, written on December 2, 2010. Someone gave me a light brown kennel box, the kind used for transporting dogs. Okay, and now the story begins. I regretted meeting her as soon as I did, because Saturdays were sacred to me. They were my me day. The weekdays were spent draining myself to work, exhausted from forcing smiles, always on display as the exotic trinket from abroad to pique the curiosity of otherwise uninterested students. And one day, reluctantly, I was forced to meet Naomi, a golden cocker spaniel. But as all stories do, this one began long before. I was quite satisfied with the balance my life had achieved before meeting her. A job that was not so much demanding as it was tedious kept the money slowly piling up. I had found a girl that was far above the level I could aspire to back home. I'm a solid 5 on my best days, perhaps a 5.5 if the lights are dimmed and I'm sitting down. There's nothing remarkable about me, yet here I was with Jin, who is far above a 10 in my scale. Yet, despite all her beauty and brains, she inexplicably was attracted to me, and even more, unlike anyone before, she was actually interested in staying after she got to know me. Yes, I was satisfied with the life I had made. A good job, a good girl, and even 2 good dogs, Philip and Wendy, Cocker Spaniels extraordinaire. So it was with deep reluctance that I let myself be dragged to a dog shelter. Who needs to see that? I know dogs are abandoned. I know how bad it is. Do I really need to give up my Saturday to see that? But Jean wanted to go, and if there's one thing I can't do, is say no to her. It was about as bad as I could expect. Korea might be on the brink of first worldship when it comes to economics, but other areas are firmly rooted in the 19th century, and animal rights is one of those. This so-called shelter was nothing more than an abandoned farming plot with 20 or 30 little cages and more than 100 dogs packed into those inhumane iron boxes. Loud, dirty, messy. Like I said, it was about as bad as I knew it would be. Perhaps a little worse. So there I was, dragged against my will to a dog shelter, seeing my precious Saturday waste away. And then I walked over to the very last cage on the far end, and there she was. A beautiful cocker spaniel, tail wagging, bouncing up and down, begging anyone who would listen for a little attention. Naomi. I spent most of the afternoon playing with her, fighting not to get attached. You see, I was very picky about the dogs I love. For some reason, I just couldn't get into that little yappy, flat-faced things that abound in this country. I need a real dog-looking dog. Cockers, Labrador, Shepherds, the like. And here she was. And what was even greater, she has a friend. Susu was a boy Cocker Spaniel, equally joyful and just as easy to get attached to. I spent the long drive home silently considering if there was any way I could possibly bring Naomi home. But I always ended up on the same wall. We already have 2 dogs, quite enough, and how could I bring Naomi and leave Susu? And after all, nasty as the place might be, they get food and shelter. I'm sure someone else will someday help her, right? Right? We like looking, but we dare not contemplate. We, the so-called evolved species, have finally developed the art of looking away. We know the pain and suffering that lingers on the other side of our personal realities, yet we choose to not see it. Perhaps that's the only way we can remain sane. So I quickly attempted to place Naomi somewhere other than my conscience and continued my life. Several months later, Jin hit me with the news. Naomi's shelter had gone bankrupt, along with its owner, and the poor guy was being forced to abandon the whole shelter and its 120 dogs. He had enough food to last until Friday. Today was Tuesday. Saturday, he would call the city and the dogs would be euthanized. Naomi! Susu! The cry was a deep vestigial scream coming out of a place in my mind I never knew existed. From somewhere in the consciousness of my mind, a burning call rose, saying, "You must act. Naomi, Susu, dead on Saturday. 1,000 objections were raised by the other regions of my being. What about the cost? What about my precious free time? Surely there has to be someone else, some charity organization, some kind of animal rights group, right? Right? But there was none. No one would help. It was us or no one. Naomi, dead by Saturday. It's amazing what the human mind and body can do. With the image of Naomi as the fuel and inspiration, I took over that shelter along with Jin and 2 other kind souls. We somehow turned that place into an animal sanctuary, and with strength and conviction I never even suspected I was capable of, we saved those dogs. And all along, every time, there was Naomi, my muse, my inspiration. For nearly 2 years, she was the first one I went to greet. In cold, in wind, in sunny days, snowy winters, blistering summers, it was always me and Naomi in the most frustratingly rewarding relationship of my life. I would see her once or twice a week, briefly, since there were so many other pups to take care of. I was with her as her health got worse. Some sort of skin allergy that was slowly taking all her beautiful golden curls. Helpless. I was there as we witnessed Susu slowly lose his mind in the distemper outbreak of 2009. Distemper. Fatal. No coming back. Pain. I'll never forget the day I had to load Susu into the light brown kennel box and put him in my car. It was the last day I would ever see him. It was for a 15-minute drive to the vet. The kind vet who let me hold Susu's hand as the needle went into his arm and the life went out of him. It was in the light brown kennel box that what used to be a live friend turned into something not here anymore. Susu died in the light brown kennel box. I buried Susu in the mountain behind the shelter, and as soon as the task was done, I went to Naomi first and tearfully tried to explain to her why her best friend would never come back. I held her for a long time that day. That day was also the last time I used the light brown kennel box, which got put in a corner to rust and decay. Naomi endured so much and asked for so little. A can of meaty dog food once or twice a week, and a hug. Yet as the months and years passed and her skin deteriorated even further, my helplessness to truly help her was gnawing at me. She needed to go. I don't want to bury her too. But the toll of shelter living was slowly taking her from me. Jean and I were able to keep those dogs alive. We were able to give them a roof. We could give them all our thinly spread love. But the one thing we couldn't give them is the thing they most needed. A home. In fact, we had accumulated what is nearly a second shelter in our own house. 7 of them at the time. But fate had conspired against Naomi, who was not one of those. There were others in greater need of care than her. I'll never forget the day I had to load Naomi into the light brown kennel box and put her in my car. It was the last day I would ever see her. Yesterday. It was for a 6-hour drive to the airport. Yesterday, Naomi, my muse, my inspiration, my friend, left me forever. She has a new home to get to in the United States. Naomi's story with me ended last night. Now she will write new stories. And last night, as I hugged her for the last time, I begged her to forget all the bad things that happened to her in her past. She is opening a new chapter with her adoptive mom, and as I close my eyes, I see her future. Grass, love, blankets, car rides, life. Real, true, blissful doggy life. Something happened that made everything worth it to me. It was a small, insignificant moment that means nothing to anyone but me. As Naomi was being prepared for the plane, the clerk at the counter peeled the backing from a couple of stickers and put them on the sides of the light brown kennel box. 2 long stickers with red letters that read, "Live Animals." Yes, the light brown kennel box saw Susu die. But now it loudly and boldly proclaims, Naomi is alive. If you kept listening this far, I thank you, and I apologize for taking up so much of your time. But the message I want to send is simple. You can help, be it at our shelter or at any other one. You have the power to change lives. Your help is needed by shelter animals today. Susu and Naomi are gone, each to their own journey. I miss them both, but that's okay. Bruce arrived at the shelter last Saturday, and this Saturday a new puppy girl will arrive, both rescued from euthanasia at the dog pound, both Cocker Spaniels, and both needing to write new stories. Oh, and I'm so happy I will never see that light brown kennel box again.